is about time World of Warcraft got some new allied races, and what could be the better timing than the next expansion that could be announced at any point. Now, I've already made videos on future playable races that could come, but I've never actually discussed allied races. While, of course, there isn't that much of a difference between the two, let us talk about some really interesting variations to the ones that are currently playable. So, not fully fledged different races such as the Ogres or the Vrykul, but the more subtle ones that are already similar to the races that we have, kinda like the Sandalari Trolls or the Magar Orcs. So, what would be some really cool allied races that could be added in the next expansion? As a gamer, you probably spend a long time in front of screens, and if you work using a PC, like most of us do, that can do a lot of bad things for your eyes that can really strain them when you put in the long hours. Well, the sponsor of this video, GMG Performance, sent me these glasses a few months back, and they can really come in as a solution as they can be really handy. Essentially, they serve as a blue light shield, and when you put them on, you can really feel your eyes relax. And they sent me the Arenas ones, the ones I'm using right now, but they also have the optimizers, which look really cool as well. As it can be a bit pricey, if you use my link in the description for the next 48 hours after this video is released, you will get 40% off, meaning you can get them at almost half the price. So check out my link in the description below. Forest Trolls. A lot of people don't really know, but forest trolls are actually already a part of the Horde. They're just not playable, and we don't really see them all that often. Now, trolls have various looks, from the upright Zandalari to the jungle trolls to the forest trolls to even the dark trolls that turned into the night elves. The most notable ones are the Darkspear that have been playable pretty much since the start of World of Warcraft, with the recent addition of the Zandalari as an allied race. However, the forest trolls actually have a tradition with the original Horde, as Sol'jin once aided the orcs and you can actually play with them in the RTS. Most recently though, a smaller hinterlands tribe known as the Revantusk became a part of the faction. Of course, they're not that big in numbers, but they could so easily be added it literally wouldn't even be a bother to Blizzard. They're similar to the Sandalari and the Darkspear that are already playable, but they also have quite a unique look. They are more stocky, wider and muscular trolls that would especially make excellent melee classes and would really be super interesting to play as. Most importantly, their tradition dates all the way back to original Warcraft RTS. They have a ton of lore, so literally it is just a matter of making them playable without any special changes or alterations. Mok'Nathal. This one is a bit of a stretch, but come on, who wouldn't want to play as a Rexxar-like character from Warcraft 3? The Mok'Nathal are a very unique clan from Draenor that are a mix of orcs and ogres, with the most notable character being Rexxar that was instrumental in the establishment of Trolls Horde in Durotar and many other future events. They are very similar to orcs, but they also resemble ogres, as obviously they're hybrids, and with this size, they might easily be added to the game. Think of it something around the size of a Tauren. Most importantly, we actually had Rexxar in the game. He really didn't stick out all that much, so it wouldn't be some impossible skill for them to add them. As they're so similar to the orcs already, they would make a perfect allied race, such as the Magar we have. I mean, they're similar to the Magar, but they're more of an alteration. They're not a completely new race like the ogres, but they're not just a simple reskin. However, the biggest problem with the Mok'Nathal, and this really is a problem when you think about it, is the fact that they're just so incredibly few in numbers, it wouldn't really make sense. The clan is nearly defunct. However, that doesn't really stop Blizzard from adding the Mok'Nathal if they want to, as we have classes, for example, like the Demon Hunters that are super few in numbers, yet you pretty much see them around every corner. Additionally, they could pull something akin to what they did with the Mega Orcs, so recruiting them from Altered Draenor when their numbers were much different than the current state from Outland. This could even be tied to a possible Yrel light invasion. Taunka. The Taunka are one of the most interesting additions that I really wonder why aren't they already an allied race. Quick backstory, but long ago there were the Yongol, incredibly powerful native beings to Azeroth that were enslaved by the Mogu and flesh shape. Eventually, they split up into 3 parts. One part remained, the more aggressive Yongle you may have seen in Pandaria. The Tauren went close to Cenarius, while the Taunka remained in Northrend. Until recently, these people were split away for the longest time until we ran into them in Northrend, and a large part of them actually joined the Horde. Now, the main reason why I think they would make an excellent allied race is because they're literally just Tauren, just with a few different features, so really just a variation. They are more bison-like, but their stature is quite similar. However, their story and lore is different, which could warrant an allied race, as they aren't as peaceful and druidic as their Tauren brethren, and they're known to forcibly bend nature and elements in order to survive, albeit this is only natural when they have prevailed in the harsh Northrend for thousands of years. They didn't really have the luxury of lush Kalendor to prosper around and be all super nature-loving. The Taunka have already pledged themselves to the Horde, their lore is quite developed, and most importantly, visually and gameplay-wise, there is literally no barrier to making them playable, as they're pretty much just a variation of the Tauren, so really there are zero reasons why the Taunka shouldn't be a Horde allied playable race. Leper Gnomes. So while we already have variation gnomes in the case of the mecha ones, these could actually be a really interesting lore progression. Here's the thing, this is the lore that a lot of people already forgot about. Long story short, the gnomes bungled up real bad and destroyed their entire capital, most of the population, and then escaped to Ironforge. Then, around the time of Cataclysm, they launched a massive operation of clearing out the city, retaking it once again, and pretty much nothing significant happened since then. It's like Blizzard just completely forgot about this event, and if you go there, it is in the exact same state as it was like 10 years ago. Realistically, we should have not gotten Omrigan as a city ages ago. Well, what if in the next expansion they finally decide to just pick up on this and to just update the zone? Now, as you may know, a large portion of the gnomes, in fact most, turned into leper gnomes, which are diseased and degenerated versions that were hit hard by the radiation. They're mainly left insane. However, we already know they have been trying to find a cure for them, so the concept of an allied race could be the ones that were cured, either a fully fledged leper gnome or something in between. Now, I know in the playable zone you get cleansed, but I'm talking about the ones that were leper gnomes for a really long time, like they really have the consequences. So we get sort of a scala to know that this gnome survived this radiation catastrophe. Personally, I think as it is but a variation, it would make for a perfect allied race for the gnomes, especially if Gnomrigan is relevant again in the future. HIGHBORNE. I know what you may be thinking, really, do we need yet another elven variation? But I think this one could be really interesting. It wouldn't be the High Elves, whose literally only difference would be the eye color, but it also wouldn't be a completely different race. The HIGHBORNE are the original Night Elven ability that was led directly by Queen Ashara. The name HIGHBORNE matches their attitude, as they really saw themselves as superior to the regular Kaldrai. However, after Ashara's defeat and the fact that most of them turned into Naga, they no longer really were an ability. A long grudge was held against them, but over time, a bunch of them merged with the regular Night Elven people. However, a smaller, isolated group only rejoined around the time of Cataclysm, and they were accepted, but not exactly with open arms. The thing is though, the HIGHBORNE are already in the Alliance, but they don't really have unique models. Brand Bronzebeard says that there isn't much of a difference, despite the fact that they pretend like there is a huge difference, but realistically, I think there is a decent difference that could be made, so they could be turned into a future allied race. For example, you can examine how the model of the Night Elven Ashara differs from the regular Night Elven female, and I think a similar allied race could be made from this concept. Generally, the HIGHBORNE lean towards magic, and it is what set them apart, and if you keep up with the lore, the High Elves were just exiled HIGHBORNE, so being able to actually play the original HIGHBORNE, the ancestors of the High Elves, would be pretty cool. Undead. This might just be the most interesting on this list, and it could 100% be realistic, especially with the Scourge, the Undead, the Forsaken, Sylvanas being super relevant in the Shadowlands, and just all this stuff. So, did you always wonder, why are the Forsaken humans the only playable Undead, despite so many races suffering under the Scourge and being raised into Undeath? Well, of course, the Forsaken are but a small branch. They aren't just lorded on humans. Most importantly, they are high elves that are a part of the faction, with obviously their previous leader being one, but we have constantly seen Dark Rangers that used to be high elves. Immediately, the first thought is, could the undead elves become playable? I mean, we already have a bunch of elf variations, but this could definitely be unique ones, and they wouldn't just be super minute changes such as eye color. However, other than this, we have a lot more interesting allied races that could be super cool. As we know, the Scourge is mainly broken, there is no more Lich King, so right now we only have whatever remains of it, and we don't really know what remains of it. Could, after their creator, the Jailer, has been defeated, a portion of them join us, mainly the Forsaken, as after all, what really are the Forsaken if not just a part of the Scourge that broke out a longer time ago? This way the Forsaken could get reinforcements after the disastrous BFA when they lost a lot of their numbers. As this video is not about new races but allied ones, I'd discount the various really different looking ones such as the Undead Vrykul, but let's look at variations that could definitely work from the Scourge and would make sense as an allied race. For example, the most notable ones are the Sandline Elves that used to be Blood Elves fighting for Kildas that were raised directly by the Lich King. While they're incredibly few in numbers, we have seen some joining Savannas back in BFA, actually becoming a part of the Horde, and they even raised some new ones. So really, while it does sound crazy, allied Dark Rangers or allied Scourge Elves could 100% become an allied race. They're not completely different to warrant brand new races, but there are significant alteration of the original elves that they could make a really cool and unique looking allied one. Thank you for watching. Check out what we should be worrying about next time by clicking on the screen, and check out Undead Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.